Yama everyone, my name's Michelle Guthrie. I'm a Wiradjuri woman, Daby descent, born on the lands of the Gomeroi people in Western New South Wales. Coonabarabran is a place that I call home. I've been visiting now on Widjabul Wyabul CwCF Jagun for over half my life. Privileged to be here visiting in the Northern Rivers of New South Wales. I work as Manager Aboriginal Outcomes with the Reconstruction Authority, and today I'm just supporting Jagun with their presentations to you and the Connecting with Country framework and First Nations knowledge sharing projects. But to begin with, I'll just give you a quick overview of who the Reconstruction Authority are, where we came from, and the establishment of some of the programs that we're here to talk to you about today. So following the flood inquiry, the New South Wales flood inquiry done by Professor Mary O'Kane and Michael Fuller, the Reconstruction Act of 2022 was a brand new legislation presented in the New South Wales Parliament following the ongoing and the intense episodes of natural disasters across New South Wales. You remember them, we've been living them. The fires, the floods, the floods, the fires, more floods, and then flooding again. It's been a perpetual cycle that just hasn't ceased, and it seems to be increasing with intensity and ongoing. So under the birth of the new Act was the development of the Reconstruction Authority. That's when it was established in New South Wales. The Reconstruction Authority, or RA, integrated the former Northern Rivers Reconstruction Corporation, or NRRC, which was later named Resilience New South Wales. They were responsible for the setup of the pod villages following the natural disasters. But in 2022 to mid-2023 was the setup of the staffing and all of the directorates within the Reconstruction Authority, the beginning of the new agency. The agency vision, it was established, and it really is about being proactive to reduce the impact of future disasters across New South Wales, to help communities recover from disasters faster. Well, the RA will implement and be involved in the critical planning and preparation with communities, businesses, and all levels of government to reduce the impact of natural disasters have on our day-to-day lives and the way that we live. When disasters do occur, our staff work closely with the emergency services and our community leaders to understand what local communities need in order to recover. Once the immediate threat has ceased, we then lead the recovery efforts in collaboration with community leaders and other recovery partners. So a new way of working for New South Wales Government. Not part of the emergency response team. I want to be clear about that. We're not an extension of the SES or the other emergency responders such as the police or fireys or any of those. They are still the first responders in case of emergency. The Reconstruction Authority steps in once the immediate response has been responded to, and as we start that recovery phase following the immediate response teams. Yeah. So the Reconstruction Authority does, however, have a seat at the table for the State Emergency Management Response Team. So we still sit at the same table, we just have a different remit that comes in after the immediacy. In the Northern Rivers, there's many divisions of the Reconstruction Authority, and the Northern Rivers takes in those 7 LGAs from Clarence up to Tweed, out as far as Wollongong, and of course out to Jabulum Village. We include Jabulum Village as part of the Richmond Valley catchment. So there are many divisions within the Reconstruction Authority. We have the Resilient Homes program. You might have heard about the buybacks in Lismore and Moolumbar, where people are selling back their houses to the government and saying we're not wanting to live in flood-prone areas anymore. There's the Resilient Lands program, and they're responsible for looking at what opportunities there are to identify and acquire resilient and safer lands for housing into the future, as well as to look at what we might want to be doing with those lands where the dwellings have been bought back and are now the responsibility of the Reconstruction Authority. There's another arm focused on economic recovery, and they're working with local businesses in order to keep employment local and supporting businesses to develop new opportunities in the Northern Rivers so that our young ones don't need to leave the area for lack of opportunity. The Reconstruction Mob, that's another team. They're all about bricks and mortar. They're all about lifting up the bridges higher and things that we call the grey infrastructure. So that's about roads and things like that, to make sure that accessible pathways, looking at evacuation routes as well, in part. There are also other arms of the Reconstruction Authority that work with the Pod Village projects and the Caravans and Pods at Home projects, which is all part of the temporary housing arrangements that were made following the floods, as well as teams that support increasing awareness and preparedness for disaster. They are also reaching out across the Northern Rivers, and you may hear from some of those from time to time. So among all of that busyness is the Aboriginal Outcomes team. Our former director, his name was Craig Jenkins. He's an Aboriginal man, a Gomeroi man. He saw a deficit in the way that RA was setting up in aligning RA's purposes to what Aboriginal communities had identified during the flood inquiry. And when he saw that, he set up 2 positions in the Northern Rivers that were identified to target Aboriginal outcomes for the Northern Rivers. It's worth noting at this stage that the Reconstruction Authorities statewide are yet to set up other roles targeted for our communities, although there is a strong commitment that they're going to be looking at that in the near future. So back to the Northern Rivers, one of the roles is permanent, which is the one that I'm sitting in at the moment, and the other is only temporary at this stage. There's a young woman named Marie who was sitting in that role for the last 7 months. She had to reprioritise recently her work and life and study balances. She returned back to Department of Education just a couple of weeks ago. Our team have a couple of projects that we're working on, 2 in particular though I want to shine a light on today, and they're the ones that we're working in collaboration with Jagun, and I won't hopefully take up too much of Jagun's talk time today. One of the projects I was asked to drive when I began my role at the Reconstruction Authority was the development of a Connecting with Country framework for the Northern Rivers. Some of you may already be aware of the Government Architects Connecting with Country framework that was developed to support the built environment, and that is a New South Wales government commitment to the integration of Aboriginal ways that we plan, respond to and integrate country into building design and infrastructure in New South Wales. Some examples can be seen in the Roads to Home project, which you may have nearby you. But there's some other great examples of the work on their website as well. Locally, the Casino Aboriginal Medical Service building is a great example of designing with country, for country, and a great example of the implementation of that Connecting with Country framework. So with the consent and the support of the Government Architect, the Reconstruction Authority is focused on the core principles and actions within that framework and looked into ways to adapt it to respond to the needs that were identified in the flood inquiry by local Aboriginal peoples. A tender process was followed in accordance with the New South Wales Treasury Aboriginal Procurement Policy, and several submissions were received from Aboriginal community-controlled organisations and businesses across New South Wales who were interested to support the development of this framework for the Reconstruction Authority. Jagun were the successful candidate after a pretty highly competitive round and assessment process was undertaken. Jagun are here to talk to you today about what this framework could look like for you in your community, then develop the initial framework. The intention is for that framework to inform the way the RA works, workers and our programs respond to the needs of communities on country. This process is your opportunity to shape the way the RA in the Northern Rivers behaves itself and incorporates your ways of thinking. It's place-based, it's deliberately community-led, and it's a leverage point for community to hold RA to account into the future. RA being such a new organisation, a new government department, is at the moment in a prime position to hear and to incorporate your voices early in the way that we work. The intent for the framework is for it to be reviewed and tested against community views and values regularly, and to be a live and evolving document, a bit like a strategic plan might behave for most companies. Other project work that Jagun will talk to today is the First Nations Knowledge Sharing Project. This project also came about through the consultation process throughout the inquiry in 2022 and responds to the direct recommendations that the inquiry had, which was to include the knowledge of local communities, local Aboriginal communities, in the planning, the preparedness and recovery from disasters. Throughout the consultations, RA heard a lot of communities saying, if you'd listened to us, we could have told you that this was going to happen. And of course, local communities did see it coming, did know what the lay of the land was, and did know that the land wasn't happy, which is why the land had no option but to respond the way that it did. So this project offers the opportunity to collect and collate and compile and share information about country that can better inform RA in helping not only the Aboriginal communities but non-Aboriginal people as well prepare for natural disasters. Many of you already know the concepts underpinning cultural intellectual property or Indigenous cultural intellectual property. And I want to let you know that Jagun have been really proactive and mindful in the setup of both of these projects to make sure that your cultural intellectual property will be retained by you and not transferred to the Reconstruction Authority throughout the process of your knowledge sharing. That means that RA will not get use of this information without permission of the custodians and won't be able to use it beyond its intent and its purpose. There are actually legal clauses embedded in the agreements that protect your information from being used by RA out of context or out of place and space. So that's our way of making sure that that we're going to protect your interests. And also for RA as a new government department to show their commitment to making sure that they're not going to be intending to use your information out of context. So without taking up any more time away from your time with Jagun to talk through these projects, I'll leave you now to listen up and for Jagun to get a roll into the next section. But my contact details are at the end of the presentation for Jagun, and I'll share that with you later. Don't hesitate to reach out to me if you need clarification on anything that I've talked about today, or more information about the Reconstruction Authority, who it is we are, what it is we do. Also, please watch while I advertise to fill that vacant position that I'm sitting on at the moment. It's a lonely role in here without other community people to walk beside me. So, if you know of anyone or you're interested yourself that would be great as a project manager, watch out for that job to be advertised real soon. Thanks for the chance to talk to you about R8 here today. I look forward to touching base with you in real person really, really soon. Thanks for your time. Much appreciated. Booger Bear.